I'm Jo, this is Muddy Puddles. It's a beautiful day and I'm really pleased with some of the things in the perennial garden, so I thought I'd have a quick look around today and see what's going on. So let's start on the swale banks. This area of Phacelia is just beginning to come into flower. You can see it starts with these beautiful green buds and then the flowers start in the centre at the top, and as the flowers end it unrolls gradually, so the flowers are always flowering at the top of the stem so that it's easy for the pollinators to get to those flowers. We've also got some calendula and some poppies starting up on this bed, which was in the green manure mix. I have mulched the edges where the grass is creeping in so that prevents the grass creeping in as much. This Phacelia, although it was planted after the other Phacelia, for some reason has grown much quicker and it's coming to the end. You can see there are just flowers on the very tips, and for some of them they have finished flowering altogether. I hopefully will collect some seed. I will get it cut down fairly soon. As soon as I think there's enough other flowers for the pollinators to keep them here, I will do that, and I will find all the other perennial things that I've hidden in here, including strawberries. It's really thickly mulched. This is where there was a fruit tree and I would need to put one back this autumn. This bed, I have sown cover crop, but a lot of my cover crop was really old seed and not a lot of it has come up at all. There is a little tiny bit of calendula there that has come up, and I think this is a tiny bit of clover, more calendula, but I was hoping it would have taken a little bit like the Phacelia did in the bed down there, but it hasn't. And this bed has really suffered for not having the soil covered. It's much drier, it's dried in harder clumps, and it's much less usable soil. It takes a lot more watering to keep the plants going. So, lesson learned there. If you have old seed and you really need it to take off, don't use it, get some new seed. Again, there's another spot where a fruit tree was missing, and again all around the edges where the grass creeps in, mulch it really thickly to keep the meadow grass out of the garden area. Come down to the other swale bank. I'm really pleased. I've discovered that this is a quince tree. I took the tree guard off the bottom, checked that all the growth that we've got is coming from above the graft point, which it is, thankfully. And I found the old plant label from when it was sent out from the nursery originally. It's a quince. I'm really pleased about that. I've mulched that really well now, so it doesn't have to compete with the grasses, and we'll really take care of it. And this bed, I'm really pleased with how it is starting to look and come on. Planted things quite close together. I don't think it's going to take long for them to grow into each other. They're quite tightly planted and they're quite vigorous growing type plants. I'm really pleased. I really like this Killia. I think it's called Pearl. It has these little puffballs instead of the flat umbels, and I really like the look of that. I'm enjoying that. I've been through what I've planted here mostly. I pick out some things that are new. This is tarragon, that's new. I've put in some more globe artichokes. I lost a few of those, that's fine. Some of them took, not all of them. I've put in loads more chives because you can't really ever go wrong with lots and lots of chives in your kitchen. Tanacetum or feverfew is starting to go to seed. I will collect some of that. I have to be careful that it doesn't go rampant and wildly spread through. I don't mind spreading a little bit, but it's the sort of plant that needs regular, I call it editing, so that you take out the bits you don't want and you move bits to where you do want it. It just needs control. I think this is an apple tree. It is growing, it is above the graft point, but it's looking a bit sad. We'll see how it gets on. I don't really want to take it out just yet. If it doesn't do much next spring, summer, I will take it out next autumn and put a new one in. Lupin is now going to seed. I will collect those again. That's another plant that needs careful editing. planting and managing, it can be a bit of a thug and take over. So I will collect those seeds when they are ripe and I will grow them in pots, and then I can make sure that they go in where I want them to go. What else is interesting down here? The aronia I put in is fruiting now. They're starting to ripen up, and I got those at the Dutchy nursery. Everything's just looking really good, really healthy. The things that are in there are beginning to grow and thrive and get their roots down. Things will bunch out and fill the space. I do need to do something about the front edges of the grass. That'll probably be a thick mulch as well. But I have a really good friend, a neighbour, where I used to live, and last autumn popped over to visit with some of my girls, and we had a lovely afternoon collecting seeds from poppies, aquilegia, forget-me-nots, cornflowers, so many different things, and we've mixed them all up together, and I've just sprinkled them through this bed about 2 or 3 weeks ago because I found them and I went, oh, I remember that day. And we've got some bits and pieces starting to come up. I'm being really careful about what I'm pulling out because I don't want to pull out anything that turns out to be a plant. But I'm sure most of what will come up will be aquilegia. Not sure what that is. Here's I'm thinking hollyhock here. And I'm thinking aquilegia for these little ones. So I'm really pleased with that. The cherry tree seems to be making a recovery from being nibbled by the deer, and my last catmint bed here. The central area, the clover is looking like billowing clouds, still is, but the new thing that I'm really desperately waiting for is it's starting to get flower heads. There's the odd one popping up, starting, but there are thousands and thousands that are waiting to open, and that will be great. This whole area will hum with bees and pollinators, and I'm very excited for that. At that point I will be happy to cut down celia from the other side that needs to come down, because I know there'll be plenty of things to keep the pollinators happy in this area. This is amaranth. I put down some really old cover crop seed. It didn't work. I had one thing here and one thing there. It was not covering anything really. So I found some old amaranth in my kitchen cupboard rather than my seed cupboard, and I thought I'll give that a go. I didn't put it in some of the other areas where the cover crop failed because it's not really suitable for intercropping. It can get quite tall and it can crowd out things that you actually want to grow. So that's just a little bit of an experiment. The seed is so fine, lots of it blue, and I've got bits growing in pathways and other areas, but that's fine. It's the odd bit here and there, and I don't mind. Amaranth has these beautiful dangly flower heads once it starts flowering and growing its seeds, so that's going to be nice to look forward to. I have a row of swede there, which is doing really well. Have a row of turnips which are harvesting. They're about golf ball size now. They are really delicious. Let's see if I can find one for you to have a look at. Oh yes, there they are, getting to a nice size. They are very tasty and very sweet at that size. My peas, I'm really pleased, are beginning to flower, so it won't be long before I have mange tout peas. Mange tout peas. And the rhubarb I bought from home will go in this autumn, but it's always a lovely surprise, isn't there? There's a roaming geranium that managed to find its way into the tub and has been growing there. I've been enjoying that. Volunteer plants. I thought my run of beans were going to run away up these poles, but they haven't seemed to have done that. But they are flowering and we are due some rain. So I'm really in hope that we get some lovely beans and they don't get dropped because it's too dry. They're beginning to climb. I just thought that they were going to go a lot quicker. carrots sown under the boards. I'll uncover those tomorrow if it rains. If not, the day after is due rain as well. Got parsnips and carrots planted here, and I've sown some big. This is the escaped amaranth. It's going a bit more spindly there because it's in the pathway. It's got to compete with grasses and things. Catmint patch and a huge pumpkin patch. I've left quite a few of the female pumpkins on because I would rather have lots of smaller pumpkins than one or two really big ones. This is 2 pumpkin plants, but they're spreading out and mingling into each other. It's impossible to tell which is which, but that's fine. We've got some of the female fruit coming on nicely there. We've got corn, which is a miniature variety for stir frying. Another tiny squash of a different variety, and I can't remember which one that is, but I'm starting to get some perennials planted in here. There are some chives, there are these, I've had them referred to as Chinese lanterns, Cape gooseberries, ground cherries, all sorts of things. They're physalis, they grow a nice little berry in a little papery lantern type covering, which is nice. One more pumpkin there. Some more globe artichokes. I've put in some sweet Sicily. I've only put one in because it looks quite small and tender, or sweet Sicily or anise. It's quite small and tender, and I don't want to risk all of them. So I'll pop one in to see how it goes, and I might put some more in. Lots more ground cherries. For the moment, in the perennial garden, helping me are the chickens. So I put them in a little mobile coop, and they're eating all the greenery. They're scratching at the surface. They are manuring, doing a really good job. They're growing away, and they're happy and healthy here. They'll move on probably in a day or two. They've eaten most of the green in their coop at the moment, so they will just slide forward to actually where I'm sitting on the ground watching them at the moment, and I will cover that with grass clippings to compost down, ready to plant later on in the year. And I can't believe how big they are. They are about the same size as my Peking bantams I used to have a long time ago. And I thought they were about 10 weeks, and I looked on the calendar and counted the weeks from when they hatched, and they are 7.5 weeks. 7 weeks and 3 days to be precise. And they already are so big. So you're all up to date with the perennial garden. I have a couple more garden areas that are going on. I'll talk about those a little bit. Different ways of starting beds from scratch. They will be up and running next year rather than this year. They're at the moment just being prepared and conditioned properly so that they are productive next year. In preparation for next year's vegetable plot, I have piled up quite high some of the dried grass from the topping. And I've covered quite a large area. It's probably about 6 by 10 metres, which is a lot of hay and it's about 18 inches to 2 feet deep. Okay, so it's an incredibly windy day, definitely a day where you don't want to be messing around with a giant silage tarp, so I messed around with the giant silage tarp. It's been raining for a couple of days. I don't want the grass to dry out. The nice damp moist grass will compost down so much better in place than dry grass, which will just stay as hay, I guess, mulch on the top surface for much longer. So I wanted to cover it over what's still damp, but the wind has come up, but the wind will dry it out again, so I've got half of it covered. It's just too windy to do any more with this giant tarp. I think I will probably take off with it if I try to do any more, so I guess I'll come back when it's slightly less windy. I underestimated. I thought it was about 10 by about 5 or 6 metres. It's actually more like 9 by 50. More space, more vegetables. If you're a long-time viewer, you will know that I am starting some of my growing areas in a variety of different ways to see which is best. So in my perennial area, a tarp was done for about a year, and then I've sown really thick clover to improve the soil ready for next spring. In another area, I have piled heaps and heaps of cut grass, and I will cover that for 6 months so that that composts in place and see how that gets on. This area was ploughed yesterday by my neighbour, and today is the perfect weather, and I'm sowing green manure in here again to prepare the beds or prepare this area ready for next year. I'm not sure what I'm going to grow here, and a lot of it will probably go back to being green manured because I think it's quite a large area for me. So I have here a mixture. This is a huge bucket of seed, and there is different types of beans, field beans. There is buckwheat and there are sunflower, and I also will sprinkle phacelia on, but I'm not going to put it in here because it will all sink to the bottom and it'll all end up in one spot. So I will hand sow that after this. So here I am ready in this weather, which is ideal for sowing, so the sun won't dry anything out. Everything in the bucket has been primed, which basically means I soaked it in water overnight. And so I shall start sowing now. I'm in the area that Jimmy kindly ploughed for me a couple of days ago, and I am going to be putting down my green manure today. I have measured out my seed, which is a mixture of phacelia, buckwheat, linseed and vetch. I don't have a drill, don't have harrows, I'm doing it all by hand. I don't have any large equipment at the moment, so I'll be hand broadcasting this and then raking it in. It will take a little while. Here goes. So that is the third section done. I've done 2 sections up here, that's the third one. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half left to go. So it's going to take a while. One thing I will say that I didn't mention before, I have sown at a rate of 2.5 times the recommended sowing because I don't have a drill, so it's not all going to be exactly the same depth. It's not going to have such an even germination, so I will lose some seed that way. Also, because I'm hand raking in, inevitably there's going to be a certain amount of seed left on the surface that the bird's going to eat. And also with hand broadcasting seed, you're always going to be a little more heavy-handed, and you're going to have patches that have a little bit more and a little bit less seed, so raking it in will help with that. But just to make sure that there's a nice thick covering across the whole area,